Okay, good evening, everyone. We are welcome once again to tonight's class. The class started by 8 p.m., but we had to wait extra 5 minutes just for those of us that are yet to join, and we just have to kick off the class now. So I welcome all you guys once again. So last week we talked about shapes. I was able to teach you guys how to use shapes, and with that, we were able to build a dashboard templates last week. We were successfully able to build a dashboard template. So this week, we are going to be kicking it up a notch. I believe everyone can see my screen. So before I dive straight into it, please, I would like to confirm from everyone if you can see my slides and if you can actually hear my voice clearly, please go to the comment section and comment I can, so I can commence tonight's class. So if you can see my screen, and if you can hear my voice clearly, please go to the comment section and comment I can, so we can go ahead with tonight's class. Okay, all right. Thanks to everyone that has been doing that. All right, so we can commence. So this week, like I said, we are going to be taking it up a notch a bit. We are going to be talking about tables in Microsoft Excel. We are going to be talking about tables in Microsoft Excel. What are tables in Microsoft Excel and what are their functions? All right, so Microsoft Excel table, I would like to define it first so that you understand what we are working with before we now dive in. Microsoft Excel tables they are powerful tools that are designed to make our data organization, analysis, and management more efficient. Microsoft tables are tools that are designed that allow you to efficiently manage your data, to efficiently organize your data, and to efficiently analyze your data. That is just the simple function of Microsoft tables. They allow effective organization, analysis, and management of your data. So we have I dropped a data set earlier in the WhatsApp group. So please, if you have not seen that, please go to the WhatsApp group and drop and take the please open the data set from there. The name of the data set is called car data set. That is what I'm going to be using to teach this night. So please, if you don't have it yet, please just go to the WhatsApp group to open it. So I have my data set open here. I have my data set here. Let me just make it bigger for those of us that can see. Okay, so this is the data set I talked about. This is what we are going to be working with. It is a car data set, and the data set is populated by make of cars. We can see our headers here. Make of cars, model, color, mileage, price, and cost. So this is what we're going to be using this night. So right now in Excel, this data set is in a range. We call this a range in the sense that right now the whole data is just made up of columns and rows. If I want to add, maybe I want to add the first price, this E2 and F2. We all know our common addition formula, sum. So if I want to add, I'm just going to select these two ranges. And then I'm going to get my answer, yes. So what I just did was selecting a range. So this data currently is in a range. It is not in a table. And since we said we are working with tables this night, I'm going to teach us how to convert a range of data to a table. When you open your data set like this, automatically it is in a range. It is not in a table. So, and if you go back to my definition of tables, I said Microsoft Excel tables enable you to organize, analyze, and manage your data much more efficiently and much more effectively. So how do we convert from a range to a data? You go to your Insert tab. We all know where the Insert tab is on the menu. You go to your Insert tab, and then you come to Table. Please, you can also see where my mouse is hovering. You come to Table. It also has a shortcut. If you don't want to come to the Insert tab and press there and come to Table here, the shortcut for inserting a table or converting your range to a table is Control T. Is Control T. So you can either press Control T or you come to Insert and you press your table and you click on Table here. So when we click on Table here, automatically Excel selects your whole data. If you look at my screen, if you look at my data, just look at the boundaries. You will see some broken lines that surrounds the whole data. Excel automatically recognizes where your data is. But before you convert your range to a table, you have to make sure your cursor is in that range. For example, the range of this table starts from column A to column F. That is the range. And from row 1 to row 1000, because this range has 1000 rows. So for you to convert this particular range to a table, you need to make sure that your cursor is anywhere in the range. You can leave it anywhere. It doesn't matter. It has to be anywhere, because if you don't leave your cursor in that range and you leave it outside that range, Excel is not going to recognize what you want to actually convert to a table. So you need to leave your cursor in anywhere on your range. So after we've done that, I said you go to insert and you press table or Control T, which is going to, or you press table, which is going to convert it to a table. So let us do that right now. We go to insert and then we'll press table. Like I said, because our cursor was in our range, if you look at the border of my data, you can see some broken lines has already highlighted everything, which means Excel has recognized my range and knows that, yes, I want to convert to a table. So the next thing Excel is going to ask you, please, we can all see this dialog box here. This thing I'm shaking is called a dialog box. It's called a dialog box. So you can see Excel is asking me, where is the data for my table? I don't need to worry about this. I don't need to input anything where it's asking me for the data of my table, because it has already highlighted. So the only thing I need to concern myself about here is this statement here, which is saying my table has headers. It has a checkbox beside it, and it's asking me my table has headers. So you can either check this or you can leave it like this, but I'll tell you the consequences why we need to leave it checked. Now, if you check this, please, someone is saying we did this last week. This is not what we did last week. What we did last week was shapes. This right now is tables. So please let us put our concentration where we are. So right now, I was saying what we need to concern ourselves with is this statement, my table has headers. So what do we mean by headers this time around? Your headers are your column titles. For example, column A, when we come to column A has a make, column B has model, column C has color, column D has mileage, column E has price, and column F has cost. Those are our headers. So what Excel is asking us that, okay, right now, if I convert this range to a data, does your table has headers? Because my table has headers, I have to leave this checked on. And then the next thing, the simple thing for you to just do is just to click OK. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have converted our range to a table, as we can all see the difference. Please let me go back there and do it again. Before we converted, this was how our table was. Please let me go back and convert again. So like I said, now I want to convert back again. You have to make sure your table is in headers, and then we click OK. And then right now our table is in our range has been converted to table. You will note some things that have changed. For example, right now there is a drop down button beside each and every single column. There is a drop down button beside each and every single column. So if once you convert your range to a table, this is the outcome you're going to get. You're going to be getting automatic filters. You're going to be getting automatic filters whenever you convert your table to a range. So those are one of the advantages, and I'll still be teaching you guys how to leverage on those filters. So right now, we'll be talking about the basics of tables, some of the functionalities that we are going to be getting in tables. Now, when you convert your range to a table, anytime you convert your range to a table, it allows you to automatically add columns. It allows you to automatically add columns. When we started Excel, we were taught how to insert columns by coming to right click here and then inserting. But when you convert your range to a table, you can automatically add your columns. And this is what we want to do. For example, now I have a column called price and cost, and then I want to get the profits. I want to calculate the profit for this particular data set. All I just need to do is create another header, just input another header called profit. Once I do that, I'll just press enter. You can see immediately this new column has been created, and it has the same layout with the table. This new column has been created without and it has the same layout of the table. Please let me do that again for those of us that missed it. Right now, profit was not part of the original table, and I want to create a profit column. I don't need to go here and insert. All I just need to do is create another header, profit, and then I just press enter, and then we see it has already created another column with the same layout of every other column. Another basic of Excel column is you can also create a calculated column. What I mean is I can calculate the whole profit for all these columns now. Please let me show you what I mean. Now, if I want to get the profits for all these information I have here now, price, I'm just going to do a simple calculation, which is price minus cost. I'm just going to do a simple calculation, which is price minus cost. Let me highlight this data set. So what do? Is equals to, once I click on a price, normally, when we've been doing our calculations, once you click on a cell here, what you get is the cell reference. For example, this particular price I clicked on is on cell E2. Before we converted to a range, if we had clicked on this 25,596, what we are going to get in our formula is equals to E2. But because we've already converted to a table, anytime you are clicking on any cell, it's going to give you the name of the header. So you can see now, when I wanted to calculate the profit, I said is equals to, and I clicked on this 25,596. It told me that it is a price, which is true. This particular value is under the price column. That is one of the advantages of a table, in the sense that your information going forward will be represented by your headers, no longer by your cell reference. That only works in a range, but right now we are working in a table. So I said I want to calculate the profit, which is price minus cost. So I do minus, and then I select cost. We can say the same thing also applied. The same thing also applied. We also have is represented by a cost, and then I press enter. So the moment I press enter, we can see it calculated the whole profit for every single row in the whole column. I don't need to come here and come and drag down. I don't need to come here and come and drag down. That is one of the advantages of converting your range into a table, because it makes your calculations very, very straightforward. So you can see we've already gotten a calculated column. This is one of the advantages of using table. So please, let's go to our side and see what else we can get from the basics of a table. Someone is asking me to explain the calculation again. What I did was just a simple subtraction formula. I didn't do anything major. What I want you to note, what I want you to understand by what I did, is that when you are using a tables, it is easier for you to get calculated columns. You understand? I believe you understand how I got this profit. I just wrote profit, and then because it's a table, automatically it adds it to the remainder of the table. So what I just did is equals to, what I wanted you to note here is that when you are selecting any cell, once your data is in a table, it is going to represent that cell as the name of your header. Right now, this cell I clicked here belongs to the price column. That is why we are having is equals to at price here. And then I want to minus it by another cell in the cost column. And then I click another cell in the cost column, and it is represented by cost here. And then I just click on enter. Because it is in a table, it is going to calculate the value for profit across board, across all the rows there. Across all the rows there. So if we want to return, if we want to go back, for example, when we started, we converted from a range to a table. If you want to convert back to a table, to a range rather, you no longer want your data to be represented in a table. But note, when you are converting back to a range, you are going to lose some of these functionalities, in the sense that all these filters that are attached to your headers, they will go. You will no longer be able to create calculated columns. So if you want to convert it back to a range, it is very, very simple. You come to table design. Because we converted our range to a table, anytime you are in a table, you are going to have this functionality on the menu bar, which is called table design. So you click on table design, and then please follow where my mouse is. You come to convert to range. So this returns your table back to a range, how it was. I won't do this now because I still want to teach you some things on a table. But if you want to convert your table back to a range, this is how you do it. You come to table design, and then you click on converting back to a range. So I would like to move on and still talk about other functionalities when you are working with a table. Okay, I would like to talk about removing duplicates. We all know what we understand by duplicates. Duplicates means a copy. Maybe when you're writing something and it's coming up multiple times. If you guys should take a look at our data here, in the make, we are having a lot of duplicates because you're having all these cars coming up multiple times. For example, if you look at Chevrolet in row 2, you're going to see Chevrolet in row 12, row 16, row 18, and so on and so forth. It keeps on coming up. They are duplicates. So if you have a data, do you understand? Or let me create a sample data. For example, maybe I'm an HR, and then I have the names of some of my employees like this. Maybe I have John, Jide, I have Jude, I have Mary, and then maybe I'm having John again, and I have maybe Charles, and then I round it up with maybe Mary. And then I'm assuming I'm preparing their salary sheets, maybe their salaries for the end of the month, what they are earning. And then I'm having something like this. Let me just make this a bit. Okay. And then I'm preparing something like this. What each employee earns at the end of the month. Now, right now I have the list of everybody here with the names, with the amount they are supposed to earn at the end of each month. But if you take a look, some names are actually appearing multiple times. Some names are actually appearing multiple times. For example, I have John here. I have John appearing twice, and I have Mary appearing twice. Imagine I send this information to the bank, and then the bank makes this payment. It's going to be an error on the HR part because two people are going to actually get paid twice. Two people are going to get paid twice. So I can actually use the table function to remove duplicates in this my mini data. So what do I do? Let me put my cursor here, and then I want to change this to a table. I want to change this to a table. And then I click on OK. And then I click on OK. Right now, it has been changed to a table. So I can now, because it's now in a table, I can now remove duplicates. And where do I go if I want to remove duplicates? I come to data. I come to data. And then there's a function here called remove duplicates. There is a function here called remove duplicates. And then when you click on it, now it's going to ask you, because our column doesn't have headers, our columns is just column 1 and 2. You go on OK. You click on OK. Just let me do that again. Remove duplicates. Hold on, please. Remove duplicates. Now I have to specify. I have to specify where my duplicates are. I have to specify where my duplicates are. I'm working with the name column. The name column is where I want to check for duplicates. So I just uncheck the column 2 and leave column 1 checked. And then I click on OK. So it's telling me that 2 duplicate values were found and removed. 5 unique values remain. If you go through all our data, now you can see those 2 duplicates for John and Mary were automatically removed. Right now, I just have my unique values. So remove duplicates is actually very, very good when you are working with a large data set and you are not very, very sure if you are having the same values appear multiple times. You can always convert your table to a range and then you use the remove duplicates function to actually remove your duplicates. So I would like to conclude tables before we move to pivot tables with some other functions that you can actually use when you are converting your data to tables. So there's a very, very unique function here. When you click on your table design, there's a very, very unique function here called total row. There's a very, very unique function here called total row. When you select your total row gives you the ability to actually sum the value of the whole column at a go. You don't need any formula to actually do that. Once you enable your total row under your table design function here, once you enable your total row, it allows you to immediately have access to actually calculate different ranges of data. Now you can see when I click on total row, it took me to the last row of this whole data and it calculated the sum of all the profits in this in this box, if you notice, there's a drop down arrow beside. You can actually choose any kind of calculation that you want, any kind of aggregate functions you want. By default, it automatically sums. When you click on the total row, it automatically sums the whole column and puts it on the last row of that column. But what if I don't want the average? What if I want to get, what if I don't want the sum? What if I just want to get the average of the profit? I'll just click on this drop down arrow here and come to average. So it's telling me that the average profit for this whole data set is actually 1,000. I can also choose to copy this whole information across board. And then I can get different values for each of them. Right now, for my mileage, maybe I want to know the maximum mileage. I'll click on this drop-down arrow and click on max. I'll have the maximum mileage. So maybe for the price, I want to get the minimum price. I can come here and get the minimum price. And then maybe for cost, I want to get the total sum of the cost. I have my total sum here. And then from the profit, maybe I also want to get the total sum of the profit. And then I have it here. This is the functionalities of tables. If you convert your table back to a range, you will not be able to, you will not have these functionalities. You have to be getting these values by using your formulas. But according to my definition, when I told you guys what tables is, it allows you to effectively summarize, manage, and manipulate your data effectively. So without further ado, we'll be moving on to pivot tables. We'll be moving on to pivot tables after that short review of tables. So please, guys, I wouldn't want us to confuse the two together, tables and pivot tables. They serve different functionalities. Now, this is a table at a glance. A pivot table does even much more further and higher analysis on your table. A pivot table does more analysis on your table. So how do you convert a table to a pivot table right now? How do we convert your table to a pivot table? Please, guys, let us take it one step at a time. I don't want us to rush. Remember, we started from a range. We took it from a range, we took it to a table, and I showed us different functionalities of a table, what you can get when using your table. Right now, we are taking a table, we are converting it to a pivot table. We are converting it to a pivot table. So how do we get pivot tables? Before I go there, I would like to explain what pivot tables do. So though they can be similar to pivot tables, but like I said, what they do is they allow you to summarize, analyze, and explore large amounts of data in a flexible and interactive way. Please, I'm going to take that again. Pivot tables in Excel are powerful tools that allow you to summarize, explore, analyze, and present large amounts of data. You're going to see it is going to, my definition is quite different from the table's function. When I was talking about the table, I didn't put the words analyze, present, or explore. So pivot tables will allow you to summarize, analyze, and explore your data, your data in a very, very flexible and interactive way. So how do we convert our table to pivot table? Now, so you leave your cursor in your data set, also in your table. It is very, very important because it is wherever your cursor is that Excel is going to recognize. Wherever you leave your cursor, that is where it's going to recognize that, okay, this cursor is presently in a data set, and that is what is going to convert to a pivot table. So you come to your insert. You come to insert, and then it is the very, very first button here, which is called pivot table. So you click on your pivot table. You click on your pivot table. So there are some things that you need to answer. There are some things that you need to answer before you finally create your pivot table. First of all, we were asked to choose the data we want to analyze. Because we left our cursor in the midst of our data, Excel will automatically select the whole data for you. So it has taken that out of your hands. Because we left our cursor in our data set, it automatically selects the whole data set for you because it has recognized that, okay, this is what I want to convert to a pivot table. That is why it's asking me, select a table or a range. It has already been selected for me. So there's nothing I need to do here. The only thing I need The only place where I'm needed is the second question, which is being asked which is asking me where I want my pivot table report to be placed. Choose where you want your pivot table to be replaced. So you have two options there. You have two options where you can choose your pivot table to be replaced. Is either you choose a new worksheet or you choose an existing worksheet. Is either you choose a new worksheet or you choose an existing worksheet. Just so that your work will be very, very easy to do and you won't be having overlapping data. It is ideal for you to choose a new worksheet. It is ideal to choose a new worksheet. So by default, it is always on a new worksheet. So you leave it there, and then the next thing you do is you click OK. So automatically you can see a new sheet has been created. If you look at your sheets bar here, this is the first sheet where our data is. This is the second sheet where your pivot table is. So ladies and gentlemen, where my mouse currently is called the pivot table. Where my mouse is hovering right now, this is the pivot table. And as time goes, we'll be seeing the functionalities of the pivot table. This is the pivot table. And by my right here, we call it the pivot table fields. By my right here, we call it the pivot table fields. Please, some people are indicating in the comment section for me to repeat that. So please, I'm going to repeat this process again. I'm just going to delete my pivot table. I'm going to delete this sheet and then do it again. So what I said, I'm going to be fast with this. What I said was to convert your table. We're in a table now. To convert your table to a pivot table, you just need to click anywhere in your data set and then you click on insert. It is the very first option here, pivot table. You click on that. And I said, you're only concerned with two questions here, which is asking me where the data I want. It's asking me to choose the data I want to analyze. And I said, since your cursor is in your data set, you don't need to bother yourself with this. Excel automatically recognizes your old data set and it automatically selects it for you. So you don't need to bother. The next thing you need to concern yourself is where you want your pivot table report to be placed. Where do you want your pivot table report to be placed? So you have two options here. Is either you choose a new worksheet or you choose an existing worksheet. So I said it is always ideal to choose a new worksheet so that it doesn't become overlapped with this existing one. So we just go ahead and click on OK. So we can see another worksheet has been created for us and our pivot table is here. And I said this on the left here, where my mouse is currently is a pivot table. And on the right here is called pivot table fields. So if you take a look at these fields, these headers make model color. Please follow where my mouse is hovering. Make model color, mileage, price, cost, and profit. They are our column headers from our original data set. If we go back to our columns, you can see these are our column headers. Make model color, mileage, price, cost, and profit. They are original data, so they have been brought into the pivot tables. So it is your column headers. It is your column headers that will be populated in the pivot tables. It is whatever is in your column headers from your sheet that will be populated in your pivot table fields, because we want to use all these column headers now to actually carry out some analysis. So now we also have some below the fields, we have some areas where I'll be teaching you what they signify. I'm going to first start off with the columns. Now, how pivot table works is that you can drag any of these fields into any of these four boxes here. We have filters, columns, rows, and values. To do your analysis, any of these headers here has to be placed in any of these four boxes. So now let me drag one and then you will see how it looks like. I'm going to drag my CAMake here. I'm going to drag my CAMake here and put it in the rows box here. When I did that, please, ladies and gentlemen, let us take a look at our pivot table. Like I said, our pivot table is on the left here. Before I dragged it, I've removed the game. Before I dragged it, there was nothing to report on my pivot table. My pivot table is where my mouse is currently is. There was nothing to report on my pivot table. It's currently empty. But the moment I drag one of my field, now I'm dragging the CAMake. The moment I drag one of my field and I drag it to the rows, you can see now I have it populated with the make of the cars. Please, let us go back to our data set. These are our data set. If I should click on the drop down beside make, if I should click on the filter beside make, it's telling me that under make, I have Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Nissan, and Toyota. I have a Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Nissan, and Toyota. That is why it is being populated here in the pivot table. That is why it is being populated here in the pivot table. All the items that are under car make, these are the only items that we have under car make: Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, Nissan, and Toyota. And we dragged it to the rows column. You can see it is lined up by rows. Chevrolet is in row 4, Ford is in row 5, Honda row 6, and so on and so forth. And so on and so forth. If we take the make right now, let us put the make in the columns, in the column section. You can see we still have the same car make, but right now they are now assembled under columns, no longer rows. They are now assembled under columns, no longer rows. So pivot table, like we said earlier, what pivot table does is it allows us to summarize. So you can see this just by dragging this make from the pivot table into any of these areas below, we've been able to summarize that these are the only car makes that are in our data. If you go back to our data, it looks so cumbersome. It looks much. We have over 1,000 rows here. But because we're able to create a pivot table with it, it analyzed that as much as that data is on that data set, you only have 5 car makes under that data set. So this is the difference between putting your information in a column or dragging it in a row. Please, how I'm doing it, I'm just clicking and dragging. I'm just clicking and dragging. We'll click and drag. So let me leave it in a row. And then I'm going to talk about the values this time around. Now, if we go back to our data set, we are having different kind of data here. Currently, we have analyzed, we have pinpointed make here. So right now, what we want to analyze, what if we want to get the price, the total price of each of these vehicles? The total price of each of these vehicles. So what do we do? Because if you look at this, our data set, every single car here has their own price attached. Every single car here has their own price attached. So what if we want to get the total price for each Chevrolet car, each Ford car, each Honda car, each Nissan car, and each Toyota car? So what do? We have a price. We have a price here, a price value under our pivot table fields. We have a price value under our pivot tables field. So if we drag the price column, if we drag it and put it under values, what do we get? Now, pivot table is telling us that is giving us the sum of prices for each of those cars. So for a Chevrolet car, okay, apologies everyone, my network got logged me out, but we can continue from where we stopped. So right now I was talking about the pivot table function. So we were able to do this. When we drag the price column into the values, automatically we get the total sum prices of each of those cars. Pivot table has easily enabled us to, now this is a simple analysis, because just by looking at this, my data, I can't get the price of each Chevrolet car because there are a lot of Chevrolet cars here. And because there are different Chevrolet cars, for example, the first one is a Chevrolet Malibu Black. The second one in row 12 here is a Chevrolet Camry White. The first one is a Chevrolet Malibu Black. The third one is a Chevrolet Camry White. So there are different kinds of Chevrolet cars according to their model and according to their color. But what I actually want to know is the total prices of each of the Chevrolet car, regardless of their model or regardless of their color. Pivot table allows us to automatically do this. What if I want to get another value apart from price? Okay, apologies to everyone. I got logged out by the network. So please, before we continue, I would just like everyone to go to the comment section. If you can hear me now, And if you can still see my screen, kindly comment "I can" in the comment section so we can continue from where we stopped. Please, if you can, I got logged out. Apologies for that. If you can hear me now, or you can actually see my screen, kindly go to the comment section so that we can continue. All right, thank you very much for those of us that have been able to. Okay, so I'll just repeat what I was saying earlier. So right now, we've been able to get the total sum of every prices just by dragging these fields into these selected boxes. The first thing we did was putting our make in a rows. The make of the cars will appear as rows, and then we drag the sum of prices. It is going to automatically sum the whole prices for you. You don't need to start using your normal custom functions is equals to sum of everything. Like I said in my definition, I said pivot tables allows you to analyze your data actually faster. We didn't use a sum function to get the total sum of all Chevrolet cars. You only need to convert your table to a pivot table, and then you'll be able to do that. So what if we are not interested in price anymore? What if we are not interested in price anymore? What if we actually want to get maybe the cost this time around? I can always drag this price. I can return this price value. I can return it into where I got it from, which is the fields. I got it right here from the field. I just drag it and return it and drop it back. You can see if you look at your pivot table, it is only the car makes that are stand alone this time around. So maybe I want to get the cost. Or no, let me work with the profit. I want to get a profit, and I drag the profit here. The values are going to change. Now, right now, it's telling me this is the sum of the profit. Before, what we had was the sum of the price. Right now, we are dealing with the sum of the profit. So pivot tables allows us to quickly get this information. You can also have two information side by side. Okay, right now I've seen the profit. I want to also see the cost also. So what do I do? I'll just drag my cost and also place it in that values box there. So you can see right now I am seeing two different information in just one pivot table. I'm seeing the car make, and I'm looking at their profit and then the cost of each and every one of them. I can always format my values in the sense that I can give it a currency sign. I can also give it a currency sign and even make it much more readable. So right now, what is telling me that this is a very, very simple analysis. What we have now, you can use this one to just present to anybody and tell them, oh, for the Chevrolet cars on that data set, the total profit for all Chevrolet cars is over $700,000, and the total cost of all Chevrolet cars is actually over $3.4 million. So pivot tables allows you to quickly do this analysis at a glance without using complex formulas. So I'd like to teach us some little challenges we can be having when we are working with our pivot tables. Some challenges that you may come across as beginners when you are working with a pivot table. So right now, once you can see now my pivot fields, which is at the right hand side now, is gone. I can't see it anymore, but I can still see my pivot table on the left. But my fields, where I was actually dragging and populating, where I will use to populate my pivot tables, I can't see them anymore. You as a beginner might come across this issue when you are working with your pivot table, where you don't see your pivot table fields anymore. The reason why you're not seeing your pivot table fields anymore is you are clicked out of your pivot table. Right now, you can see where my mouse is. My mouse is now in a range, in the sense that my mouse is in H5. It's now in a range. It's no longer in my pivot table. The moment I return my mouse in a pivot table, my pivot table fields come back. So you might be working, you might have created a pivot table, and then you no longer see your pivot table fields on the right, and you're wondering where they are. You don't need to panic. You don't need to undo. You don't need to close your work. You just need to click back in your pivot table. And sometimes also you might be clicked in your pivot table and you still don't see your pivot table fields. Right now, I am clicked in my pivot table. Everybody can see I'm in the pivot table, but I still can't see my fields. What do you do when you are faced with this problem? You right click. You still remain in your pivot table fields. You right click And then you come to the last option here, which is telling you show field list. Show field list. And then you click on it, and your pivot table fields is back. And your pivot table fields is back. So please, that is one of the errors I feel you can actually come across when you are working with your pivot table, because as a beginner, you don't need to fret. You just need to perform all those functions and you get your pivot table fields back. So I would like to show you some further analysis that you can also do since we've gotten our first pivot table. Right now, our first pivot table is showing us the profit, the total profit, and the total cost of each of the car make. Please, for those of us that are asking questions now, I will not be able to take questions mid-class. If you have questions, you can jot them down somewhere, and at the end of the class, I'll be calling on those of us that indicate and to ask your questions. So please save your questions for now and concentrate on what we're actually working on. So right now, I said this pivot table is actually showing us the sum of profit and sum of cost for all the cars that we have on our data set. You can do more analysis on this. Yes, we chose to show the sum. What if I don't want to get the average? What if I want to get the average profit and the average cost of all these car makes? It is very, very easy to do. I only need to click right now. I want to get the average profit. We got the sum profit. Right now, I want to get the average profit. All I just need to do, I just need to right click. I need to right click anywhere on any sum, and then I bring my mouse here to value field settings. Value field settings. This is it here. Value field settings, and then we click on it. And then here we are left with this dialog box, which shows us different kind of aggregate functions. Right now, the default is sum. We can see sum is highlighting sum. Even the name of the column there is telling us sum of profits, because that is what we did to get here. What if I want to get the average? Like I said, we just come here, you click on the average. The moment you click on it, it changes here too. Please look at where my mouse is over. It changes here too. If I should click on sum back, it changes to sum. But right now, I said I'm no longer interested in the sum. I only want to get the average this time around. And then I click on average, and then I click on OK. Immediately, can we see? Right now, we are not seeing the sum anymore. We are just getting the profit average, the average of the profits. So right now, it's telling me Chevrolet has an average profit of 3,407, and so on and so forth. Ford with 3,006, 3,067, and so on and so forth. Please let me do that again. Now, I want to get my sum. I want to get the sum back. I right-click. I want to change my average. I want to get it back to sum. I right-click. I come to value field settings. This is the dialog box. If you can see, there are different kinds of aggregate functions there. You have your sum, you have your count, you have your average, max, mini, product, and so on and so forth. But right now, I'm just concerned with sum, and then I click on sum, and I click on OK. Now I have the total sum of those cars back. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first analysis that we've done in this data set that we have. So right now, you can see our data set is much more. Let us go back to our original data set. Our data set is much more, in the sense that what we have just been working on since is make. We've only been working on the make of the cars, but we also have models. We also have models of cars. We also have color of cars too. And we can also get analysis for each and every one of these columns. So now let's go back to our data sheet. Right now, if I want to get the price and cost, or price and profit, or whatever value I want to get for maybe model or color this time around, what you need to do is you need to create another pivot table. Right now, this pivot table is already populated with the car make and the profit and their profit and cost is already populated. But we want to do another analysis, this time according to the car color. We want to get the profit. We want to know which car color actually costs more, which car color is actually giving us the highest amount of profit. How do we do that? Because this pivot table is already populated, there's nothing we can do to it. We leave it like this. We generate another pivot table. which means you need to repeat the process you did for the first pivot table. And how did we do that? Like I said, make sure your mouse is clicked. Make sure your mouse is in anywhere, is in the middle of the data set, and then you come to insert, and then you click on pivot table. So if you remember, I said you only need to concern yourself with where your table is. Excel has automatically selected that because you clicked, because you left your cursor in the middle of your table. So Excel automatically selects that. And the next thing, you just need to leave it on a new worksheet so that your pivot table, your new pivot table is created in a new worksheet. And then we click OK. So right now we can see, if you look at our sheet bar here, our original data set is here. Our first pivot table is here. And then we are having our third pivot table. So ladies and gentlemen, when you are creating multiple pivot tables, so that you won't get confused and you will know where each pivot table stands, you can actually rename your sheets according to the analysis you have created. Right now, I can rename these sheets to data set. This is because these are our original data sets. And then this first analysis was profit slash cost. Let me do profit underscore cost of car make. So when you're naming your sheets like this, it enables you to know, when you're looking at them, you know that, okay, this sheet actually holds the analysis for the profit and cost of a car make. So now we go to the sheet 3, to the third pivot table. Now we said we want to know the price, which color of cars are actually selling more, which one costs more, which one is making much more profit. And then we come to the color here. You drag. Let's populate the row column. So you can see the color of cars we have are black, blue, red, silver, and white. Those are the 5 unique colors that we have in our spreadsheet. Those are the 5 unique colors we have in our spreadsheet. And remember, the analysis we said we want to carry out, we want to know the cost and which of them are actually making profit. So now let us drag our cost value and put it under values. And then our profit value too, we drag it and put it under values. So we can format our number. We can format our number by giving it the dollar currency. So right now we have our values. We know that the cars with color black cost over $3.6 million and they generate a profit of over $800. We know that cars with color blue generate generate over $3 million also, and then their profit is slightly lower to those of blacks with $614,000 plus. So we can see this analysis was done for us straightforward without using any formulas at all. So right now you can confidently tell people, when you have done your pivot table together, you can confidently tell people the cost of all the black cars, the cost of all the blue cars, and so on and so forth, just by using pivot table. That is one of the beauties of using pivot tables. So the next thing I want to teach us right now is, okay, so we can, like I said, when you've created your pivot table, you can just rename your pivot table. So you can rename the sheet where that analysis is, so that you won't get confused. So now this is a price, this is a cost, and just a cost underscore profit of car colors. Sorry, of car colors. So we have that. All right, so let me go back to my first pivot table. Right now we have the profit and cost of all these cars. But which of them is actually, which car has the highest profit? Which car is actually giving us the highest profit? Now, if we look through here and go through, we'll see that, okay, I think Toyota is giving us the highest profit. So right now, I want my pivot table to be arranged in the sense that I want to see the cars with the highest profit first, followed by the second highest, third highest, and so on and so forth, till I get to the lowest. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of us that have been attending the video class, What I'm talking about right now is sorting. I want to sort my data in the order of hierarchy of the highest profit to the lowest profit. You can also use your sorting function in pivot data. How do we do that? So let me work with only profit this time around. Now I want to sort which cars actually have the highest profit. All you need to do is bring your mouse to where your profit column is. Please, it is very, very compulsory because it is only the profit column we are sorting. So it has to be where the profit column is. And then you right click. You right click anywhere, and then you will see your sort here. You will see your sort here. I believe everybody should know at this stage, everybody should know what sorting is and how to sort. So I wouldn't emphasize on that. So you see when you right click on any value there, you see your sorting here, and then you can choose whatever you want to choose. Maybe you want to sort from smallest to largest, or you want to sort from largest to smallest. So now let us choose from smallest to largest. So right now we can see Honda has the smallest profit with $535,000. And then followed by Ford, followed by, it keeps on going down to the largest. And it's telling us that Toyota has the largest with 853,000 profit. Now, let me sort it by largest to smallest now. You again, you see, it's also going to change. Now, Toyota is at the top. Now, Toyota is at the top with the highest profit of 853,000. So you can see, this is another functionality under pivot table, which we previously did the analysis, but the analysis was not even giving us, we're not even seeing it in an order of hierarchy, in an hierarchical order. But right now we can actually see that Toyota, Nissan, Chevrolet, Ford, and Honda, those are the order those are the order of profit. Those are the cars that are actually making profit in their order. Toyota first, and then Honda second. So if you are the business owner of this particular business, and then you are being presented this data set, automatically when your employee presents you with this analysis using a pivot table, you already know that Toyota is what is bringing you much more profit, and then Honda is what is giving you the least profit. That is how to sort in a pivot table. The next thing I'm also going to teach you in a pivot table is how to filter. At this stage, we should already know what filtering means in Excel, so I wouldn't place much emphasis. So how do we filter in Excel? So just like the analogy I gave earlier, when I said I'm the business owner and I just want to see how my cars are doing, which one is making profit, of which that is the business of every, that is the end game of every business owner, to see whatever is making profits for them. So I'm interested in the cars that are actually making me profit. And then my employee did an analysis for me, telling me Toyota is what makes profit. And I say, okay, fine. Now, what if I now want to see only, now I have 5 cars in my company, which is Toyota, Nissan, Chevrolet, Ford, and Honda. What if I'm interested in seeing only the top 3 cars that are making me profit? I am not interested in those ones doing poorly. We all know Ford and Honda are actually doing poorly here. So as the business owner, I'm interested in just seeing the top 3 cars that are actually making profit. You can only use your filter function to get this. Remember, I only want to see the top 3 cars that are doing well, the top 3 cars that have the highest amount of profit. So what do? I need to filter out those 2 that are performing poorly. I need to filter out Ford and Honda. So how do we do this? Right now, you bring your cursor to where you want to filter. Remember, we are filtering cars this time around. We are filtering cars because we want to see the car makes that are actually doing well. So you right click anywhere on your car make, you right click, and then you come to filter. You click on filter. You'll be given, you have some options here, but what we are considering ourselves here is top 10. What we have business with here is this top 10 option here. So then we click on it. So now once we click on it, now this is where we now choose to do further analysis. Remember the analogy I gave you. I said I'm only interested in seeing the top 3 cars that are actually doing well, the top 3 cars with the highest amount of profit. So what do? The first one here is telling me top. If you click on the arrow, you have another option saying bottom. So we have top, bottom. I'm not interested in the bottom. I'm only interested in the top. So I leave it in top. Then I come here, which is showing me 10. So here, this is where I now choose the number I want. Remember I said okay, please remember I said I only want to see the top 3. So I said I will leave it on top. Right now, this is where I manipulate the numbers 10, and then I reduce it to top 3, top whatever I want. Do you get? I leave it on items. If you come to be buy sum of profit, because sum of profit is the only value that we chose there. Do you understand? Is the only value there. This is the only thing you see there. And then you click on OK. Ladies and gentlemen, please take a look at our pivot table now and see what we are left with. We are only left with Toyota, Nissan, and Chevrolet as the 3 cars that are performing highest in terms of profit. As the 3 cars that are performing highest in terms of profit. The remaining 2 cars have been filtered out. Ford and Honda have been filtered out because they are actually not in the top 3. Someone is asking me to take it again. I'm going to take it again. I'm going to take it again. Right now, I've removed the filter. I just did a simple Control Z. I undid. So right now, I have everything back. I have my cars. They are all sorted in their hierarchical form. They are all sorted according to the profit that they generated. Toyota, Nissan, and so on and so forth. Now, the analogy I made right now, as being a business owner of this data set, right now I'm interested only in seeing the top 2 this time around. I only want to see the top 2 cars that are actually making me profits. I don't have any business with the remaining 3. I only want to see the top 2. That is where I want to put my focus on. So I give my employee that instruction. And so how do you do that? You come to where your cars are. Please, you need to note how I'm getting these things. I'm not asking you to select. I'm not asking you to highlight. You just need to drop your mouse. Just select any of the items there, and then you right click. And then you right click, and then you come to filter. Is under sort, and then you come to filter. And I said what we have a business here with is what is top 10. And then you click on your top 10. And then you click on it, top 10. I said here we have top, and then we have bottom. We have top, we have bottom. I said since we are only showing top, we just concern ourselves with top. And we said we want to see top 2. So I just replace this 10 with 2. And then I click on OK. Immediately, my pivot table takes under instruction and shows me the top 2 cars that are performing well in terms of profit. So right now, I have my Toyota and Nissan. I've already gotten my information from that analysis. So you can see how pivot table enabled us to do a very, very fast analysis compared to just looking at your data set. And then you are wondering that how are you going to calculate the total price of a Chevrolet car? How are you going to calculate the total prices of cars that are actually black in color? How do you know which one is selling more? Because we summarized all this data into a pivot data, and then all you just need to do is populate your fields here. You are going to be able to get this analysis at a faster rate. So if you want to remove your filter, maybe you want to now see all your cars back, you come to this drop down beside your car make, you drop down and then you clear filter, and then the filter has been cleared. So ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 important things I taught you right now: how to sort your data and how to filter your data. It is very, very important because when we are done with this, we are going to be moving to how to create charts, how to create visuals from our pivot tables, and your sorting and your filtering is going to come in handy there. So let us just do more analysis before we now see if we can, before we now try to move on to charts. Let me go back to my data set. Okay, right now I've been able to get profit and cost for colors. Okay, let me see. What else can I get? Okay, let me see which of this car has actually traveled the most, has the most mileage. Mileage means the amount of miles traveled by each of these cars. So I want to calculate the cars that have actually traveled, that has the highest amount of mileage. So like I said, I need a new pivot table for that analysis. I go back to my original data set, I click on insert pivot table, and then I click on OK to create it on an existing worksheet. And then right now let me use the model this time around. I want to know which of the models We also have 5 models: Altima, Camry, Civic, Malibu, and a Mustang. Then I said I want to know their total mileage, the sum of their mileage. Okay, so maybe I'm not interested in the sum of mileage this time around. I only want to see the average miles that each car has traveled in the past. I said to do that, you just right click on your value, and then you come to value field settings, and then you click on average, and then you have OK. So you can see we have an average of each of the car model this time around. You can format your number. We all know how to format numbers in the sense that I can remove the decimal, just approximate it. And then I'm left with a round number like that. So one last thing I'm going to teach in pivot tables before we now start building charts using these pivot tables is how to get rid of grand totals. Right now, because a pivot table summarizes your data, so automatically it calculates the grand total of any value. You can see for profit here, we are getting a grand total here. We got a grand total here. And also here too, we're also getting grand totals each. So what if we don't want to see the grand total? We want to remove the grand total. How do we do that? So I want to show us how to remove the grand total. You might not be interested in seeing the grand total. You're just interested in seeing the individual profits for each of these cars, not the grand total. So what do? You right click, and this time you come to pivot table options. You right click, and this time you come to pivot table options. You click, and then the only thing we are concerned here is totals and filters. As you can see where my mouse is here, totals and filters. And here you can see grand totals. It's selected. Because it's selected, that is why we are being shown grand totals. But because we want to remove it, you just deselect it and then OK. You can see my grand total is no longer in my pivot table. If you want to bring it back, you follow the same process. Let me do that again. You right click, you go to pivot table options, you click on totals and filters. This is totals and filters here. And then you bring it back. You click, and then your grand totals will be brought back. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the simple explanation of how to create pivot tables from a data set like this. Remember, when we started, we only started with a range. Our data was not looking like this. From a range, we converted to a table, and from a table we converted to a pivot table, and from a pivot table we were able to get some analysis done according to what we have in our pivot table fields. And from there I was able to tell us some issues you may come across when you are working with your pivot tables, and I was also able to show you how to do further analysis by getting other functions apart from sum. You can get your average, you can get your max, you can get your mini, and so your mean, and so on and so forth. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be moving further from pivot tables. Now we are going to be moving further. We are going to be trying to do further analysis on our pivot table by actually creating charts, by actually creating visualizations from our data sets. Right now, yes, we've already gotten our analysis, but it is not visualized yet. It is not visualized yet in the sense that they are not yet in the order of charts. And what do we understand by data visualization? Or why do we have to visualize our data in Excel? Okay, so data visualization in Excel enables you to transform your raw data into insights through visual representation. Right now, we've been able to look how far we came from just this data set with lots of data that didn't make sense. We've been able to actually make sense in the sense that we now know the profits of some cars. But you can also take it a step further by visually representing your data in the form of charts and graphs. This Visualization tell more stories about your data than even pivot tables. Visualization enables you to tell more story, to get more insight about your data, even more than pivot tables. So without further ado, I would like to also dive into pivot charts and create our first chart from our pivot table. So how do we get charts? You leave your mouse clicked in your pivot table. It's very important. Your mouse has to be left in your pivot table. And then you come to insert. Insert is where all the fun is. Insert is where you get your table. Insert is where you get your pivot table. Insert is also where you get your charts. So this is where your charts are. You can see it has a section all by itself. These are your charts in Excel. So you click on this drop down arrow to see all the charts. When I click on it, please hold on, my system is okay. So when I click on it, right now, I have a dialog box showing me different kind of charts. I have a dialog box rather showing me different kind of chart. So the first chart here, you can see it is already mirroring when I clicked on it. Please let us look at the chart and let us look at our pivot table. It's showing me this is a preview. I've not yet selected the chart, but this is a preview. But even in the preview, you can see the columns there, the axis there, the horizontal axis there. Toyota, Nissan, Chevrolet, Ford, and Honda. Those values that are on our pivot table have automatically been represented in your chart. And you can see, because my chart is sorted in order of highest to the smallest, it is showing me Toyota as the highest one that has the highest profit, followed by Nissan. You can see the bars are slanting. The Toyota is the highest because it has the highest profit, followed by Nissan, Chevrolet, and lastly Honda. So if I want to have this chart represent my data, all I need to click on it and then I click OK. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the first chart we are creating in this class from our data. We came all the way from year to year through the use of a pivot table. So right now, this is a visual representation of a section in this data set. This is a visual representation of a section in this data set. So right now, I can confidently tell people that in this data set that you are looking at, that has Chevrolet, Nissan, Ford, Honda, and the likes, the cars that is actually making the highest profit is Toyota. I can confidently say it because my data will not lie. I analyze that data to get my chart. So this is the first chart we have created. Please, I'm going to do that again. For those of us that said they didn't get that, let me delete that. I said for you to get a chart, for you to get a chart from your analysis that you've done on your pivot table, all you need to do is click anywhere in your pivot table, go to insert, and then you can click on this drop down, which is going to show you all the charts that we have. We have so many charts. You can see them all listed here. We're going to be taking them one by one. I'm going to be teaching you each of these charts, their functionalities, how they work, and when you should use each of these charts. So please stay tuned. So the first chart we actually have here is called a column chart. The first chart we have here is actually called a column chart. So we can see it represented here in columns. Those bars you are seeing, those lines you are seeing are actually called columns. So when we click on it, and then we click on OK, our data is represented in columns. And you can see the columns are according to the prices. Now, we have a Toyota car. We have a Toyota here. See the column here. And then the prices are in this axis here. This is the vertical axis here. It's in this axis here. And then you can see your Toyota, if you trace it, it is slightly above 800,000. Please look at where my mouse is. It is slightly above 800,000. And truly, the profit of Toyota is 853,000. So it has to be slightly above 800,000. But if you come to Honda here, you can see the column for Honda, the bar for Honda is actually a bit lower. If you trace it, it's just slightly above 500,000. And if you come to analysis here, the Honda car truly is just slightly above 500,000 in profit. So this is our chart. Also, if you click on any bar here, please, you guys should look at where my mouse is. I want to make the chart bigger. If you click on any bar here, it's going to just give you a mini information. If you can see, right now, it's telling me my series is total. That means the total profit. My point is Toyota, which means I'm currently on the Toyota bar, and then it's giving me the value, which is 853,659. So I'm going to, please let me go back. I want to show us different kind of column charts. Let me create my chart again. Hold on. Let me reduce this. Okay, I'm going back to column chart this time around. Before I do that, let me populate let me just add the costs. Let me make it a price and cost. Okay. So now let me go back to my chart this time around, and then my column chart. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see right now I am having 2 bars. Let me click on OK. This is my chart. Right now, I am having 2 bars for each car. I'm having a blue and orange car. I'm having a blue and orange bar for each of the car. Why do I have that? Because if you look at my pivot table, I have 2 values there. I'm representing cost and I'm representing price. That is why my chart is also showing me cost and price. So here, I'm going to be telling you all this. We call it legend. I'm still going to be explaining it to you further in the class. We call it legends, and it shows the color of each of those values. So right now, it's telling me the blue represent the cost and the orange represent the price. So we can see anywhere we see blue, we know it's talking about cost, and anywhere we see orange is talking about what? Price. This is a simple representation, a visual representation of this analysis that we did here. So it's showing the price and the cost of each of these cars side by side. So let me bring back my pivot table fields. So this is it. So if I should go back to my column, I'm still on that column chart, guys. I'm still on that column chart. Now, even column chart has different kinds of column charts. Even the column charts has different types. These are the different types here on top. You can see they are at the top here. The first one we are actually working on is called a clustered column. The second one is called a stack column. If I click on it, it's going to change. And then I click on OK. This is still a column chart, but it is a stacked column this time around. Most of us that watches finance forecast, or you read finance books and stuff, you will see most of these charts actually used. It is also a good chart to use when you are visually representing your pivot table as charts. So this is another type of column chart. This is another one too. This is called an 100% stacked column. So whatever is first going to show you a preview. Whatever you choose is going to show you a preview. So it's left for you to determine whatever you actually want to use. So without taking too much of our time, I'm only going to stick with one. So let me choose this, and then I click on OK. So we have our chart from our pivot table. So the next thing I'm going to be teaching us is chart elements. Now, on this chart, there are so many things that we can do. There are so many formatting that we can do. We can also make this chart look much more presentable, or we can just adjust it to our taste. Now, how do we do that? We use a functionality called chart elements. Where are your chart elements? Once you select your chart, you're going to see a plus sign here at the top right-hand corner. You're going to see a plus sign here at the top right-hand corner, which is telling us that those are our chart elements. So without further ado, we go straight into it. So if you look at the caption, chart elements enables us to add, remove, or change our chart elements, such as the title, legend, and so on and so forth. So we'll be taking it one step at a time. So if I click on the chart elements, all the chart elements are listed out, and then I'll be taking them one by one. The first one is the axis. We can see that it's already checked. That means this chart that we are looking at has axes. And you in every single chart, there are always two axes. You either have the horizontal axis, which I think is the x-axis, and you have the vertical axis, which is the y. I might be wrong. This is math. I think this is math, and it's been a while. But you always have two axes called the horizontal and the vertical. So now, which one is the horizontal and the vertical? You can see them listed here. When I click on axis, when I click on this arrow, you can see it brought out primary horizontal and primary vertical, and they were both selected. That means they are both active in this data set, which is true. One axis is the car make, which is the Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, and so on and so forth. The other axis is the value, the cost and price value, which we have here on your left. You have the car makes on your down. So if we are selecting the primary, now if I want to remove any of those values, I just need to come here and deselect it, remove it, unclick it. Right now, I remove the primary horizontal, which is the car make. You can see right now my car make is no longer there because I've already deselected it. But when you are building your own chart, there are some things that you always, some to do, let me call it to do, or some best practices, let me call it best practices. For example, now if I'm presenting this data to someone, this data cannot be understood in the sense that which one is Chevrolet, which one is Ford, which one is, I've already removed the axis. So it is going to be very, very hard for me to actually present this chart. It's going to be very hard for me to explain this chart when I removed my horizontal axis. So most times it is necessary for you to leave your horizontal axis there so that it is going to be easier for people to understand your data. Right now, I brought it back and you can see my Chevrolet, everything, my car make is there. The next one is the primary vertical. We can also choose to remove it. If I remove, you can see those values are actually gone. Those values are at the left are actually gone. This also makes it difficult for people to actually read your data in the sense that right now, I cannot know these values any longer. I don't know if this Chevrolet, is it more than 3,000? Is it more than 4,000? Because there's no axis to guide me anymore. There's no axis to guide me anymore. So let me bring it back. Axis. This is where it is. I click on this and then I put my primary vertical back. So when you're building your chart, best practice is called for you to always have your axis present so that people can interpret your data very, very clearly. So after axis, we move on to the next one, axis titles. The first one we did was axis, horizontal and vertical. Now axis title. Now axis titles means the title of all these axes. Right now, if I'm presenting this chart to a layman, to someone that was not in this class when we started, and someone that is not even familiar with cars, someone that does not even know any kind of cars, and I start talking about Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, the person might ask me, please, these names you are calling, what are they? Are they names of countries? Are they names of places? Are they names of restaurants? Because the person is not familiar with a Ford, the person is not familiar with a Honda. So sometimes best practices can also call for you to name your axis, to give your axis titles. So how do we do that? You come to your chart element and then you click, you enable chart axis. So you can see the moment I click on that, please look at our axis before I click on that, there was no title here. There was no title under can make, and there was no title at the values. But the moment I click on axis title, so right now, I have the option of entering an axis title here. It has already given me an option of any title. So all I do, I can just come here, select this, all this, and write car make. Come to this other axis title on the left here, and also correct this and write maybe cost. Sorry, maybe cost and price. Maybe cost and price. So anybody now looking at this data, you joined, maybe you don't know what they mean. These axis titles already tell you that everything you're seeing there, Chevrolet, Ford, Honda, and so on, they are all makes of cars. And then these values represent their cost and price. So when we are building your data, it is also good. Best practices call for you sometimes, it might not be all the time, sometimes to give your axis titles. To give your axis titles. So the next thing we are going to be moving on is chart title. Chart title. Also now, a layman, I'm still going to continue using that analogy. Someone joining this class now and looking at this chart title, the first question the person is going to ask is, please, what does this chart, what's the name of this chart? Or what is this chart showing? Those of us that started this class know that this chart is actually showing the cost and price of CAMEC. Or someone just joining, or someone wants to present it to, that doesn't know what we are talking about from the beginning. The first person is going to ask me is, sorry, please, this thing you are presenting, what is it about? I don't know. So sometimes best practices, not even sometimes, every single time, it is very, very good to actually name your chart. Give your chart a name. Give your chart a title so that people will understand your charts better. People will understand your analysis better. So how do you name your chart? How do you title your chart? You come to this place and then you click on the chart title. The moment you click on the chart title, you're already giving it this text box, which allows you to input a chart title. So right now we can actually come here and then we can name our chart. Our chart's name is cost and price of car mix. Cost and price of car mix. So right now you can see we are actually modifying our charts. We are actually increasing its functionality and how people can interact. Someone asked me a quick question and I'm going to just answer it quickly. How did I get the chart elements? Please, anytime you click on your charts, you are going to be able to, it's going to bring this. Please look at where my mouse is. The top right hand corner. The top right hand corner are where your chart elements are, and it's in a plus sign. So you click on it to have all these options available. You click on it to have all these options available. So the first one I did was axis, my primary and my horizontal. You can actually choose for it to be there or not. But I said best practices allow you to actually always leave them there. Also, I followed that up with axis titles. I said best practices also call for you to sometimes name your axis so that people will actually interpret your data clearly. Then I also follow that up with chart title. I named my charts cost and price of CAMEX so that anybody seeing it doesn't have to ask me, what am I doing? You can already see it stated boldly. So at this junction, before I continue on the chart element, I also would like to show you that everything you're writing, even here, you can also format it to your art content. You can also format it according to whatever you want to do. For example, now this cost and price and price of price. This is by chart title rather. I can actually increase its size. I can actually make it bold. And I can also decide to change the color. Give it let me give it a more distinct color. Give it maybe a color purple, something like this. I can also do the same for my x-axis here, the name of the cars here. I can make it bold. I can give it the same color. The reason why many data analysts do this is just to increase the visibility of their charts. Now, by making it bolder, by making it bigger, do you understand? It is clearly visible for everybody because your job as a data analyst is just to interpret this data. And right now, that's what we are doing. We are visually interpreting our data. So what would it profit a data analyst to actually build a chart and then people are having problem even seeing what is on their chart? Do you understand? So you can just actually do some things to just make your chart visually appealing, visually attractive, just by maybe adjusting the colors, making it a bit bigger and making it bold. And at this junction, I would like us to take note. When we are doing this, please don't go overboard with colors because we are data analysts. We are not graphic designers. You are not asked to overload your chart with different kind of colors. No. The reason why we are using a color is just to make it a little bit visually appealing so that when people see it, it attracts their attention. It doesn't mean you will now start giving it different colors. Colors can also be misleading in the sense that when people see too much colors, it messes up their concentration. And you never know, you might even be presenting your chart to someone that is colorblind. That doesn't even make sense of all those colors. So when I'm using colors, I always tend to make my colors uniform. If I start with one color, that is the color I'm going to use throughout my chart. So you can see I'm only using this. Is it a deep blue or a purple color? That's the only color I'll be making use in the whole of my chart, because I don't want, how do we call it? I don't want color riot on my chart. So you can see at least I've made it a little bit appealing. I've been able to format those chart titles, axis, and co. Another thing you can also do, you can also format these bars themselves. But okay, right now I won't take that now. That is still further down the line. I'll take that when I'm done with chart elements. So right now, I've been able to show you how to actually format all this. So we go back to our chart element and see what else we can get from it. Okay, so chart element, I stopped at chart titles. The next thing is data labels. The next thing is data labels. Now, these data labels, before I select it, it is most times it is very, very compulsory. I personally, as an analyst, there's rarely any analysis I do, or there's rarely any chart I build that I don't add data labels. What data labels just do is they enable people to interpret your data much more faster. Now, let us see how it works. If I should click on a data label and I click on it, let me increase my chart sizes, the size. I'm coming. Please hold on. Let me remove. So because of space, let me just remove one value here. And we are left with cost. Let me remove one value here. Okay, all right. So we can see our charts with data labels. This is data labels. When you click on your chart and you come to chart element, you just click on data, you just select it. So you can see where the data labels are these values on each of those bars. They give us the exact value of these items. For example, now look at our Chevrolet. Let us go to our pivot table. Please look at where my mouse is. Look at my pivot table. In my pivot table, it's telling me Chevrolet has a sum of 3,404,414. Before I enabled my data labels, I was not seeing that exact price. I just know that through my data, and if I now trace it to the numbers on the left here, I will know that yes, at least my Chevrolet is having a cost of up to 3.4 million. But I don't know the exact price. I don't know the exact number. So your data labels, once you enable your data labels, you click on your data labels, it shows you the exact number as it is in your analysis, as it is in your pivot table analysis. So you can see it's telling me my Chevrolet is 3,404,000, the same thing on your pivot table. So this is also good when you are looking at your chart. It is best practices to actually allow data labels so people can actually see the value of these items at a glance. They don't even need to trace it to what is on the left. They don't even need to trace it to what to the axis that is on the left, to the vertical axis that is on the left. And even with this, you can even now remove the vertical axis. You can even now remove the vertical axis this time around, because you actually don't need it anymore, since each of the bars has now been represented with the exact data label. So you can also choose to format your data label. You can also choose to give it the same colors that we have been giving every other thing. So those are data labels for us. Those are data labels for us. So let us see. I'm going to try to complete this chart element in this class, so that in the next class, we are going to be talking about the other kind of charts. Right now, we've only talked about column. So I'm going to finish chart elements today so that we can talk about column, the other kind of charts, in the next class. So the next one is data table. Data table. So if you click on a data table, please look at our chart. It just gave us a summary of the pivot table. It just added that table to it. Right now, it's creating a mini table under those charts. Most times, this is not needed because I don't want to see another table. I already have my I already have my information in my pivot table. I don't need to see a table in my chart. So most times, best practices, there's hardly any chart that you will see that they are including data tables. So you can actually remove your data tables. And then the next one, error bars. Error bars too, you most times they are actually not needed. Error bars too, most times they are actually not needed. These are error bars. These are your error bars. You could choose to remove, you could choose to leave them there, and you could choose to actually remove them. So the next thing is grid lines. What are grid lines? You see these lines that actually line up the background of your data. You see these lines that actually line up the background of your data. They are called grid lines. You can decide to actually leave your lines there or remove your lines. Now, if you want to remove the grid lines, this is how I remove my grid lines. You just click on it. You can see, I can even see my data much more clearer because my grid lines has been removed. And if you want them brought back, you can just click on it, and then you want your grid lines have been brought back. Most times, grid lines are used in association with the vertical lines. You can see because they point to these numbers. You can see they are pointing to these numbers. But since I got rid of my vertical line, I don't think I need my grid lines anymore because they're not pointing to anything. So I can just decide to have it removed. So we finish up by our legend. What do we understand by legend? Let me add to this analysis. Let me add a price to this analysis. Please hold on. Sorry, apologies for the break in transmission. The network logged me up, but I'm back now. So I stopped at legends. So I said, what are your legends in Excel? So legend in Excel, now look at this pivot table that we are doing. It's represented by two data this time around. In the sense that it is showing us the cost and the price of these different car makes. It's showing us the price and the cost of this car makes. So what do your legends do? So your legends help you to identify the different data series in a chart. It helps you to identify the different data series in a chart. Right now, we have two. We have cost and price. Do you understand? If this legend was not there, it is going to be very, very difficult for us to know which one is actually blue, which one is actually blue, and which one is actually orange. For example, now I remove my legend now. Do you understand? Assuming this chart came without legend, and then we are seeing something like this, cost and price of car makes. Yes, we are seeing the cost and prices of car makes, but which one is cost? Which one is price? Which one is represented in blue? Which one is represented in orange? It is your legends that enable you to do that. So when you're having your charts, which is showing more than one series, this chart is showing more than one series. It's saying that it's showing two series, which is the cost and the price. Those are two series. So if you have your chart that is showing more than one series, it is best practices to always include your legend. It is best practices to always include your legend because that is what is going to be able to differentiate which series from that. Now I can know that the blue color, now I can know that the blue represents the cost and the orange there represents the price. So if you are having a chart which is showing more than one series, please always enable your legend. Please always enable your legend. So now let me just do my analysis again and leave it in one series. Let me just remove price, and then I'm left with cost. So you can see now, my legend is just showing me total because now I just have one series, which is the cost this time around. I'm just left with one series. So in this occasion, in this situation, I actually don't need a legend because it is just one series. It's just one color all through. It's just one series, just showing me cost. I actually don't need a legend, so I can just come here and remove the legend because the legend is not needed in this situation since it is just one series. Remember, I said it is when your data is in more than one series that you can actually use a legend. So lastly, I am now going to round up with, I've finished everything on that chart element. I'm going to round up with these buttons. Please look at my where my mouse is hovering. We call these field buttons on charts. We call them field buttons, and the only thing they represent the information that your chart has. For example, now there's a sum of cost on this chart. We have a field button representing sum of cost, and there's also a car make on this chart. We have a field button representing car make. I can choose to leave them here, and I can choose to get rid of them. If I want to get rid of all the field buttons, I right click on any of the field button. Please hold on. I right click on any of the field buttons, and then I come here, hide all field buttons on charts. Hide all field buttons on chart, and then when I'm done that, all the field buttons disappear. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to do a lot today. We started from a range, converting to a table, from a table to a pivot table, and from a pivot table, we've been able to build our very first chart in this class. And then I took you through the different chart elements and their best practices, when they should be used, how they should be used, and their functions. So I'll just like to end on a note. I just want to repeat what I did earlier in terms of sorting and filtering, and then you will see how it applies to your chart. So right now, if you remember how I filtered, I said I want to get the top 3 this time around. My chart is showing me all the costs, and even my chart is not sorted, because right now you can see they are not aligned. If I want to sort my data now according to the highest, let me first sort. I right click, and then I come to sort, and then I sort from largest to smallest. You can see my chart rearranged itself and sorted itself according to an hierarchy. And the hierarchy is the highest cost to the lowest cost. That is sorting. Whatever you do on your pivot table is going to reflect on your chart. Now, let me filter according to the top 3 this time around. I said you come here, you right click, and then you filter. You come to your top 10, and then I'm only interested in seeing the top 3, and then I click on OK. You can see it also applies to my chart. I am seeing the top 3 cars with the highest amount of profit. It's reflecting my chart and showing me only the top 3 items there. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this junction, I would like to take a break and actually listen to you guys. I know a lot of us have a lot of questions, because this is the first time many of us are coming through this. So I would like to go to the I would like to hand over the floor to you guys now. If you have any question, please signify by raising up your hand. Use the I've not finished talking. I've already seen so many hands up. So please, if you have a question, please use the hand button to actually signify, so I can unmute you, and then you can answer your question, and I'll do my best to answer you as best as I can. So Shamsuddin, I can see your hand up. So I'm unmuting you now. So you can go ahead to ask your question. So Shamsuddin, you have the floor.
Good evening.
Good evening, Shamsuddin. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you for a wonderful presentation tonight. My question is just about when you are creating the pivot table. So I just want to ask, all the values are the pivot fields. Can't we include it? Can we populate it on a single pivot chart, on a single pivot table? Can we do everything on a single pivot table instead of creating multiple pivot table for the same values?
Okay. All right. Is that your question? Is that all?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So Shamsuddin, because our analysis is different right now, if we go back to our previous analysis, what we did here, this was just for colors, cost and profit for car colors. What we did here was, in this other one, was average average of mileage per car model. And then this one that we worked on was cost and price of car makes. They are different analyses. Do you understand? They are different analyses. So you can't have everything represented in one pivot table. It won't make sense. You need to have, because Remember, your pivot table will be converted to a chart. So if we have all these three information on one pivot table, please, how do you want to present it in a chart? That is what you need to keep at the back of your mind. Your pivot table is going to be visually represented by a chart. So you need, it depends on what you want to analyze. You can't cram all your analysis into one pivot table and into one chart. That's why you need to have a pivot table for a pivot table for one analysis, because you know that is what is going to be represented on your chart. So I would like to take, I hope I've been able to answer that to the best of my knowledge. So I'm having another person raise. Please, this is the time for you guys to actually ask questions. We have like 13 minutes left. The lecture is over for today. So you guys have 13 minutes to ask questions based on everything we've talked about in the course of the class today. So I have another person raising up. Inusa Aruna, you have the floor now. You've been omitted, so please go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. In fact, I actually enjoyed the lecture today, but I joined a bit late. I missed the point where we're changing from the range to data, or to tables. If you can just elaborate more on that for me, please. Thank you.
Okay, Inusa, if you missed how to change from a range to a data, that means you didn't start the class at all. And that was the very, very beginning that we made. So all I'll just advise you is to avail yourself the opportunity of the video that will be dropped shortly after the class in the group, and carefully watch how it's done. It's no big deal. It involves no advanced functions or formulas or something. It's just few clicks of button and you've already converted from a range to a table. So please watch the video that will be dropped at the end of class. You'll be able to get that. So the next person raising up at and Adam, please, I know we have ladies in this class. I'm only hearing from guys. Please, I would need a lady to speak up and ask questions. Please, ladies in the class, please involve yourself in this class. It's an interactive section, and it's your time now to actually speak to us and let us hear your concerns. Please go to the comment section and indicate, raise up your hand, and I'm going to call on you. So Adamu Hassan, I'm unmuting you now. Please go ahead and ask your question. Adamu Hassan, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Please go ahead. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Correct. So my question is that how can I remove the gaps between the charts? If you look at the charts, Toyota, Chevron, and Nissan, the gaps is so wide. So how can I reduce the gaps?
Okay, all right. I'm going to take your question. That we'll be doing that in later classes, not this class.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
That we're still going to come across with. Well, thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Yes. So I have someone else. Onome, you are being unmuted now. So please go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, thanks for today's presentation. Kudos to you. But my question is, what is the difference between pivot tables and dashboard?
Okay, is that a question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, so class, he asked us the difference between pivot table and dashboard. They are actually different. They are wildly different. Do you understand? A pivot table, the purpose of a pivot table is to allow you to quickly organize and filter your data sets, just like we did. Do you understand? That is the sole purpose of a pivot table. A pivot table is a summarization tool. It allows you to quickly summarize your data. And remember that whatever you summarize on your pivot table is what you'll be able to use to build your pivot charts. A dashboard, on the other hand, is a collection. A dashboard, on the other hand, is a collection of multiple charts. A dashboard, on the other, we are still going there, so I wouldn't want us to jump the gun or go ahead of ourselves. It's a process, but your question is good. That's what I'm asking you. A dashboard is a collection of visuals. It's a visual and interactive report that combines multiple charts. So you cannot go straight to a dashboard without learning the basics of a pivot table. So they are wildly different. They are wildly different. When we at least after we've been able to understand pivot table and build multiple charts, our next port of call is building an interactive dashboard. So stay tuned to this class. You're going to know how to build a dashboard too. So thank you very much. So Amara Chuku, I believe that is a lady. I've been waiting to hear from a lady since. So I'm unmuting Amara. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please go ahead.
Please, can we say that a chart is the same as a graph?
Can we say that a chart is
like the two terms?
Okay.
For instance, now as we are doing this cost price now, can we say maybe that this is a graph for a cost and price, something like that?
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Now, is that your only question, or you have more?
That's all for now.
Okay, thank you very much. So, class, she asked that what was the difference between charts and graphs? In Excel, they are actually used interchangeably. Do you understand? I can refer to a chart as a graph. I can refer to a graph as a chart. So they are freely used interchangeably, but they have some minute differences. Do you understand? They have some little differences. Now, your charts represent your data through different formats. This one that we did now is a chart, is a column chart. Do you understand? It is a column chart. Do you understand? It's not a graph. It's a column chart. Now, if I want to have a graph, let me just do this. I know I've not taught you. We're still going to go back there. I know I've not taught you. We're still going to go back there. Now, you all can look at this. We've not done this. This is going to be done in the next class, but I just want to use it to explain Amara's question. Now, this is a line graph. Do you understand? This is, anyone looking at this now will call this a line graph, but it is actually under charts. It is actually under the chart functionality in Excel. But right here, this is a line graph. It is still the same thing as that previous one we did. Your Toyota, Chevrolet, and Nissan is the only thing represented, and Toyota is actually at the top. Do you understand? So they are used interchangeably. They'll just have little minute differences. Do you get? So your line, when it comes to line like this, we normally call it line graph. Do you understand? But you will still find it under a chart in Excel. So I believe that has been cleared. So please, those of us that have not, any other person that has any question, I want to take questions from those of us that have not asked questions before in this class. And I know we have a lot of people. Or do you guys want me to call out? I don't want to call out anybody. Okay, all right. So in the absence of any questions, we are going to continue this class tomorrow by the special grace of God. And like I said, we're going to continue from where we stopped. We were able to finish all the chart elements. So yet tomorrow we are going to be taking each of those charts one at a time. And if time permits us, we are going to analyze a full data set, do different kind of analysis, build all kind of charts, and create our first dashboard in this class. So in the absence of any question, I'm going to end the class now. Thank you so much for everyone that has joined, and we will see you again tomorrow. Good night, everyone.